Today, in the morning, we heard many talks about supply chain attacks and hardware implants, right? Well, yet another talk about hardware implants. This case will be more practical approach, and especially I will talk more about heat attacks and its class of offensive devices. After this presentation, you will understand that flash drives are not the only USB-related threat within the ICS realm. For those of you that doesn't know what is ICS, ICS stands for Industrial Control System. So power plants, nuclear plants, etc. You will be even more afraid of you will be even more suspicious and afraid of USB devices and gadgets, so not only flash drives. And you will learn also about new tools that you can use during red team engagements, or if you are blue teamers, you will understand new ways to conduct incident responses. And of course, scare CISOs. First thing first, USB devices are still the #1 source of malware in industrial control systems. Of course, if we do not consider things like insider threats or misconfiguration from sysadministration point of view. You heard people finding through Shodan bunch of HMIs, UIs facing internet. That's a misconfiguration, right? So if we don't consider these two things, USB devices are still the #1. To support this fact, here I brought some, media's news from the last years. The most common that I didn't even report in this slide is Stuxnet. Stuxnet was the main entry vector was a USB drives that contractors were bringing inside the premises in Iran, and then, Stuxnet started spreading, and, PLC, turbines, heating, and etc. Another operation I really liked is the Operation Copperfield, which in this case, the malware was brought inside the plant through a infected USB flash drive, because a very amazing employee of that plant wanted to watch very badly La La Land movie, so I decided to bring this infected USB drive, flash drive, and plug it inside the power plant, right? Of course, not only ICS world is affected. So for the guys that are not in the ICS world, don't think you are safe. Actually, you are not. There are some researches beside the usual targets, as a corporate bank that has plenty of USB ports everywhere, from the kiosk in the guest area to the corporate laptop. So Kaspersky Lab last year in December presented a research about jackpotting ATMs by using hardware devices, like implants or not. In this case, this research proved that some ATMs around the world, right now you would think, which ATM has a USB port available, right? Well, there are some of them that have literally available USB port somewhere in the, in the front end of the ATM. Some others, some models, under the keypad, if the keypad is exposed outside the main structure of the ATM, if you pull out the aluminum shield under the keypad, and you put a finger in there, there are a bunch of holes, you can plug out a USB female port. And from there, well, you can imagine what can happen. Another interesting report made, again, from Kaspersky Lab guys, is about the dark vision operation. So some Eastern Europe banks got compromised through some devices, like Raspberry Pi used as pen test drop boxes, or things like, Bash Bunny. We'll see later kind of what it is a Bash Bunny. But still, we used cheap hardware implants to compromise an entire banking infrastructure. So it's reality, it's just not like, So another common misconception, especially in the ICS world or in corporate environments where you are used to these security trainings, awareness trainings, where the security officer is coming to you and telling in big slides, USB flash drives are bad. If you find one in a parking lot, in a guest area, bathroom, don't plug it in, report to your security officer. That's good. We learned that. The problem is that USB devices are not only flash drives. We can find it everywhere. Mice, keyboards, drawing tablets, even YubiKey that is supposed to add another layer of security It's just a heat-row tunnel between the YubiKey itself and the software of YubiKey installed on the machine. Why is it important to consider all these devices? Well, because they can be weaponized, also known as implants in a commercial product. We'll see later what I mean. I will start with a brief overview of the existing classes, generations of offensive devices within the HID attack world. The first two generations can be dated around 2009, 2015. Probably the most known because of Hack 5 YouTube series videos and Mr. Robot is Rubber Ducky. It was made in 2010. Very nice device. Is able to emulate keyboard, mouse, and flash drive disk. The sad part is that you need to be physically close to the target to, well, insert the USB key, and then especially to trigger the payload, right? So it's kind of, it's not always useful. Then there were other devices. The most important, from my point of view, is Turnip Skull, made by NSA playset guys, which Joe Fitzpatrick was part of it. So it's the first of a kind. Actually, what it does is the first open source, open hardware implant that allows a pen tester, red teamer, to exfiltrate data on a air-gapped machine, right? This was based on Cottonmouth. Bunny today showed this was slide about it. Cottonmouth was a tool created by a NSA Tau unit from United States of America in 2008. Was leaked by Snowden in 2013. And again, that implant was able to bypass air-gapped restriction. So air-gapped environment is a machine that has no connection whatsoever with nothing. No internet, no intranet, nothing. And now we can come to the third generation. The first device is with injector. You can see it as a Rubber Ducky on steroids because it has the same functionality of Rubber Ducky plus Wi-Fi connection. So you can plug it in or drop it or weaponize a gadget and then control it remotely outside the building, another floor, within the Wi-Fi range of the chipset. Another very nice tool is PwnPy. PwnPy can be seen as a Bush Bunny on steroids. So to give you an idea, a weed injector is small enough to be hidden inside a classic USB case or, lighter. PwnPy sadly is slightly bigger because it's based on Raspberry Pi Zero, so it's harder to conceal inside a mouse, for example, or a keyboard. Though it's very nice, was created by Marcus Mang, and I strongly recommend you to have a look at it, and especially at the YouTube demo I put there. Sadly, time constraints, I cannot show you all those things. So going back to Weed Injector. Weed Injector is a hardware that supports different software frameworks. The first software framework is the default one. It has a lot of features. My favorite one are 4. The first one, it can act, since it has a Wi-Fi chipset, it can act as a Wi-Fi pineapple. It can create a Wi-Fi rogue access point, faking your corporate access point, and then from there you can do all the attacks that a normal Wi-Fi pineapple can do. Of course, it supports multiple operating systems, Windows, OS X, Linux, even iOS if you want. I sent to Apple's security team a proof of concept about that, but they decided that is not a vulnerability. It's like UAC in Microsoft. It's accepted risk. Then we have other 2 cool features, spoofing VID and PID. VID is vendor ID, PID is product ID. These 2 IDs are unique values that identify a very specific USB product. Imagine your company allows only Lenovo keyboards and then the model 123. So if they have in place a DLP solution, data loss prevention solution, which is doing whitelisting, they will whitelist only that specific VID and PID for that specific Lenovo model. What that means, with Weed Injector, we can spoof those VIDs and PIDs in a way that once Weed Injector is plugged in one way or in another, manually by the pen tester or through a weaponized gadget, it will act as a Lenovo keyboard. So we will bypass at least basic DLP solutions. And of course, my favorite feature is the air gap bypass. We can bypass air-gapped environments by pushing commands and output, so exfiltrate data, through the serial connection that is created over the USB port. So we don't need any other existing network to exfiltrate data. The second software compatible with Injector is US Abuse. US Abuse was created in 2016, presented in DEF CON by Rogan Daves. And what it does is the replica is one-to-one copy of the functionality of Cottonmouth, the same implant hardware created by NSA TAO in 2008. What it does, well, it's in short, is targeting only Windows operative systems, and it allows an attacker to get a remote terminal, remote shell in real time without using any other communication channel, just the Wi-Fi chipset with Injector. So once again, we can exfiltrate data over a covert channel. Here is another demo, so when the slide will be published, or you can stop me later, I can show you. Weaponizing USB gadgets. So with Rubber Ducky we needed physical access, or either use it as a expensive USB dead drop, or connecting physically to the target, we had that issue. By weaponizing USB gadgets, so using with Injector as an implant, hardware implant, ghetto-style hardware implant, because it's like $11. So as Bunny was showing that graph, with effort and cost, this one is very low cost and may have a very big impact. So imagine weaponizing a mouse or a plasma ball or a fridge or a fan or whatever you want, even a palm breast. For some reason, they sell in USB-enabled thing. So now imagine, you weaponize this gadget. Let's take the example of the plasma ball, like in the title of this talk. We weaponize a USB plasma ball with Injector. We create a fake website about office supplies company, right? We create a fake brochure about it. Then we find through OSINT a possible target, like, spear phishing-like target of the target company. We deliver through FedEx this package. The guy, most likely, we are targeting someone that is not security like, for example, we are not going to target a security officer, and most likely we are going to target not HR, but someone, geeky enough to like a plasma ball. Then we send this plasma ball, the guy receives, opens, sees everything, oh, a brochure, whatever. Sees the plasma ball, plug it in, and he will plug it in. If it's not a plasma ball, can be a USB fridge. Most likely, they will plug it in. And what will happen? It will create a Wi-Fi network, usually hidden. And then the attacker from outside the building or outside the floor, outside the room, the office, can start his attack. Why it happens? All security awareness trainings out there are stressing the fact that you don't have to plug USB flash drives, right? Even in ICS news medias, we see flash drives as a vector, but no one said a plasma ball or a USB fridge might be a problem, especially because when you see a plasma ball, you think it's a dumb device. It doesn't have D+ and D- cables in the USB, so there are no data communication. So in this case, the risk level, the awareness is lower with respect USB flash drive. Another example could be a state actor. Last year here in Singapore, there was the Trump-Kim meeting, and what happened? All delegates received a welcome package. Within that welcome package, there was a USB fan, right? A very nice USB fan, something like this one. So in that case, the first thing I thought when I saw that tweet was like, North Korea, gadget, USB, might be an implant. Of course, I was not the only one thinking about that. Someone managed to get this very same version of that fan, and they popped it open and figured out there was no implant at that time. Though, we cannot assume that someone is not working on, like a smaller version of with Injector, for example. So that might be an issue. So after with Injector went to release, people started to like it. There are pen testers in US that are deploying like 30, 50 of them around the premises of the target. I came up with another version of with Delete. I wanted something even more multi-purpose with more features in it, standalone that can run without being plugged on a USB port, so over LiPo battery. and I came up with Delete. With Delete, as usual, has the same MCU of with Injector, so it has a Atmega 32U4 to emulate keyboard and mouse. Instead of the Wi-Fi chipset, this time I wanted even longer range, so I started to evaluate different technologies, like LoRa, for example, and then I came up with the simplest solution ever, mobile baseband, right? Everywhere there is, well, now not so much, not anymore 2G coverage, but still quite good around the world. And once NB-IoT coverage will be, networks will be deployed everywhere, I will switch to the second version, so I will add NB-IoT baseband. So the idea is that if before the range was few meters outside the building, now you can be on the other side of the city, the region, the country, of the world, right? The only requirement is a 2G network. And then, of course, I embedded a USB hub controller. So in this way, you can weaponize smart devices like a keyboard or a mouse that are exchanging data between the host and the device itself in an easier way, because with the Injector, you need an external hub controller. So now it's everything in one PCB, and it's easier to weaponize. All those gadgets were weaponized, so keyboard, just call it. All of them are malicious right now. So here is a short proof of concept on how you can use with Delete to bypass air-gapped environments. So in this case, this laptop is acting as air-gapped machine. There is no connection whatsoever. So no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, no Ethernet, so no internet or intranet. It's completely isolated. The only thing is that the keyboard, external keyboard that is weaponized with Delete, is plugged into the laptop. Could have been an HMI of an industrial plant, whatever. So in this case, the attacker with Delete is inside the keyboard, turns on, and then the attacker from the other side of the city, the region, the country, can send commands, right? So in this case, do air gap, who am I? So what it does now, and this is intentionally slow down the keystrokes injection to show you what is happening, what it does is injects a PowerShell script that executes the command, who am I, enumerates the serial ports, and send through the serial port the output, and then eventually the attacker will receive as an SMS the output of the who am I command. Then, of course, if the machine is not air-gapped, so it's a classic corporate machine, we can always execute remote commands, like, in this case it's calculator, but imagine like PowerShell Empire agent, first stage, Cobalt Strike, your own first stage agent. So you can still execute remotely arbitrary commands. So that's pretty much compromised. Of course, since we have the capabilities of a mobile baseband, I added also a microphone. Some C executives, if you are a pen tester or a red teamer, are not very IT guys. They don't understand the threat of an air gap bypass, but they do understand when they hear their voice during a corporate meeting from a meeting room, right? So I added a microphone, and in this case, you just need to send a command like make call, and the number you want to be called at. And then with Delete, we receive the SMS, execute the command, and call back by activating the microphone. So you will have acoustic surveillance as well. I was not satisfied. I wanted something more. Usually during a pen test or a red team engagement, I also use another winning, it's like always winning attack, the mouse jacking attack. For that reason, I added an NRF chipset. In this case, there are two versions, one with 50 meters range, the other one with slightly bigger range, 500 meters. Of course, conditions, depending on the building and so on, but yeah, it's quite good range. What is mouse jacking? If you don't know what is mouse jacking, I strongly recommend you, especially if you are an offensive guy, to look at it, because so far, in any engagement I've done, I always succeeded on that. There is at least one vulnerable mouse or keyboard that is plugged in and used by some employee in a corporate environment. So now imagine, like, for example, if we use the 500 meters long range with the LiPo battery on a drone flying around the buildings in Singapore. I mean, the likelihood of popping shell is very, very high. Of course, I was not satisfied enough. I wanted even more features. So I added some basic radio hacking capabilities. Like, for example, in this case, with Delete is running in standalone mode, so without USB connection. And in this case, what I do, I activate the feature of with Delete to listen for packets, demodulate decode it, and send the bit sequence to the attacker, so to myself. In this case, as proof of concept, I keep pressing disarm packet. And now we will see that with delete is demodulating, decoding this bit sequence of disarm command, and sending all those decoded packets in real time to the attacker. So now I just need to take one of those bit sequence, strip out the zeros preamble at the beginning because it's irrelevant, and then it's practically called replay attack. So, and then I instruct with delete to take the bit sequence and send it back. For the purpose of this demo, I'm sending back 50 times. So it was enough, 1 or 2 at most, to disarm the alarm system. But in this case, I wanted to show you in the spectrum analyzer the spikes there. Yeah. So 50 times you send the same packet sequence, and the alarm system is deactivated. So yeah. So now imagine this technology from hardware point of view, and adding to that at the top roll jam attack. The roll jam attack can bypass rolling code, kind of rolling code, so cars. So now, like for example, in Eastern Europe, they're selling these devices for 5,000 euro. So later, with less than 40 bucks, you will be able to do the same. So I don't know if they will be happy about this device, but we'll see. What else? Right now, last 2 weeks, I heard about research from Trend Micro about cranes. Well, appears that out there in the market, there are a very good number of remote controllers and receiver and transmitters of crane, industrial cranes, the big ones, that are vulnerable to a nice subset of vulnerabilities. The most important is replay attack. So now imagine with delete, with the RX, TX module on it, LiPo battery on a drone, flying around the city and sniffing a replay arbitrary packets, for cranes. It's like doomsday. The best part is that I talked with the main researcher behind it, Federico Maggi, and he told me that many vendors said they will fix the new releases, but they won't fix what is already in the market. So, it's going to be a dangerous thing. I have no time for mitigation, so I will just do one slide about mitigation. Don't trust unknown USB devices, not just flash drives, any device. At most, use a USB condom, then you cut off the D+, D- data bus from USB. And if you really need USB devices, of course, use a DLP solution that really block HID attacks, because not all of them out there can do their job properly. That's pretty much it. Thank you.